Hello everyone, it's Fluffy and I have made a video again. It's been so dang long. I don't know how it started, but I went back to the Global League again because this time I actually want to reach 1400 rating. Why? Definitely not because a poll and most people agreed that you need to be 1400 to be considered a Masters or whatever. Definitely not that. It is entirely because I wanted to play some non-lively games. Yes, that's totally the reason. And it's also not because I'm concerned that I might be moved out of Division 1 if my rating is not high enough, or if other people pass me. Definitely not that. So let's begin. The map is New Kids on the Block, and I am against Humble Roger Jr., who picked Adder into my Jess. This is tier 4. And I can understand Adder. This base will definitely want to fight for this comm tower, just like my 1 base wants to fight for his comm tower. The 2 base side is definitely the strong side, but at the same time, it is behind mountains. Ugh. Mountains. Tanks have a hard time moving through the mountains, but the 1 base side is also behind mountains, so maybe Adder mechs might come into play, but if no mechs come into play, then I just need to survive the initial push and get to my tank chains. That's my plan. Fluffy stalling, what a surprise. So let's begin. I almost forgot the controls. Hang on. L is next turn. Okay, K is next move. Okay, I'm starting to remember this. He builds infantry. I move to go for my neutral base as normal. He goes for his neutral base and starts this capture. I should not move this. Try not to click if I don't have to. I go for this capture chain because I want money. Jess wants to get tanks as soon as possible. So you prioritize money over contested properties most of the time, in my opinion. But going for this capture, as Adder did here, is definitely more centralizing. It's just there's no capture chain. Adder moves this infantry forward. He can start capping the comm tower. And I decided that this infantry should go for the chain to the airport because this is my 1 base side. It doesn't have a lot to well, it has a lot to capture, way too much to capture, but it doesn't have a lot of infantry, which means my 2 base side should be sending infantry towards my 1 base side so that the 1 base side can start pumping out vehicles instead of just foot soldiers. I built my first tank in the back. And the reason why I built a tank here is because I want this infantry to start capturing the side property as soon as possible. This base still needs more infantry because there's just way too much left to capture. So the middle base here, which doesn't have too much left to capture, can start pumping out tanks. And Adder goes for the comm tower. And also this infantry goes for the capture chain. Okay. He builds his first tank on this base. I go for my comm tower. Adder, if you're going to fight me for it, if you're going to fight me for the comm, it's a good thing that I went for this property second, so that my infantry isn't off capturing something and can help with the comm tower, which I think is rather important. The comm towers are rather contested. I built my tank to contest his tank. It's a base skip tank. That's how the tank order is in my favor. For map balance, usually players, like 1 player gets a tank, but the next player can get the next 2 tanks before the basically ABBA tank order. I prefer to call it BAAB. But it means that I'm not supposed to get my second tank until he gets his second tank because I got my tank first. But by skipping this base and spending all the money on a tank, I'm able to get my second tank before he gets his second tank. Which, as Jess, I mean, normally you don't want to base skip, but I am Jess. I want my tank chains as soon as possible, especially to secure the comm tower. So, fluhfie has been base skipping a lot more recently. These are professionals, do not try at home. He builds his second tank over here, and I get my first boop. Boop. This is probably just him on autopilot, like not checking my tank moves. My tank was able to be here in 2 turns. And I decided to join cap this comm tower and built my second tank on this base again because I still want more infantry here. I do want to eventually pressure this comm tower. Hopefully I take this comm tower before he takes the other comm tower. Adder gets 2 comm tower and it's just pain. And this is where he made one of the biggest blunders of his game, I believe. In my opinion, this is the biggest blunder. 2 HP cannot do any damage. It does 8 to 9% with 1 comm tower. And a tank has a less than 50% chance, like the infantry is chipped, so it took a little bit of damage, but the tank has a less than 50% chance with the chip damage to reduce this lower than 4, so I get the comm tower. What he should have done instead is use the tank first. Now admittedly he doesn't want to because well actually it's perfectly fine, my tank can't even reach this spot. He should have used the tank first because terrain defense scales off of the HP of the unit. If the tank struck first, the infantry would do more damage. And according to my math, I never checked the calculator, but according to my math, that would be a greater than 50% chance to reduce my infantry to 3 HP instead of 4. So they could have increased their odds to reduce this to a 3. But it's just skill issue. Even though it's luck damage, I'm still going to call it a skill issue because it's funny to laugh at them. And also because the attack order does actually matter. If the tank struck first, I might have been reduced to 4 or 5. I don't remember the calcs, but I know the 2 HP infantry does like 10 to 11, I think, which is like 3% more, and that 3% more actually makes a big difference because my 4 HP infantry is not at 4. It's probably at like 3.1 or 2 right now because of that's just what the odds are. If they reduce it to 3.0, it would be dropped to 3, but it is because it is 3 point something, it rounds up to 4, which means I can capture this. Attack order matters. Attack order does matter. I had my infantry here to prepare to interrupt this with my tank, but he moves over entirely, and now I don't have an infantry to capture this because I base skipped. This is the price of base skipping. If I had an infantry, if I didn't base skip, I would have an infantry here ready to move up. But that's not the case. That is the price of this tank that I was willing to pay. So I capture my comm tower, I am happy. I begin capping this because I have tank backup now. And free dude is free dude, might as well take. Pew. I got a whole infantry for free. That offsets the base skip just a little bit. I sit on the mountain, able to capture or interrupt those cities. And I built a 3rd tank. Because of my base skip tank, I am up in the tank order, so I will now be practically... Well, not really. He can buy 2 tanks infantry next turn. But I have 4 tanks to his 3. I got all of my tanks before he got his tanks. But this turn he can afford 2 tanks. So for once, he is now ahead of me in tanks. The first time in the game. But I'm still, I'm happy I got my comm tower, and I decide to do a little play. I noticed that there's only 1 infantry here, and his comm tower is mighty vulnerable. So I capture my obvious captures first. I decide to kill this infantry entirely, begin capping the comm tower, because I know Adder doesn't have his power yet, so this tank cannot intervene. Only one tank can fire, and the tank is forced to fire at my tank, which is very juicy. It's on the road, and he gets to sit on the city. But if he does that, I take his comm tower. And he can also go for my comm tower, but then my tank gets to first strike him, and then I bring tank back up. So it's a tough choice for him. He's in a tough spot. I also built a tank on this base instead of this base, for the reason that the tank going from this base can reinforce this side in 2 turns, whereas a tank from this base can reinforce the middle in 2 turns, but takes an extra turn to move on to the left. So I'm catching up on the tank order just a little bit here. Now both my tanks can cover this tank. So even if he first strikes me from the city, I am still happy. If he interrupts comm tower, I just kill his tank, and I take the comm tower anyway because I can join cap. It's my 2-base side, I have plenty of infantry here. I build a tank, he builds a second tank here, I build a second tank here. That's how we play here. I don't want to be behind in tanks. And now I am just straight up ahead because I can also afford 2 tanks again. So he was ahead in tanks for half a turn, but now I'm back ahead of tanks. No, my infantry. I can still capture this. Like, my 9 HP captured for 2 turns. I just realized my PNG is blocking the... He tries to interrupt this, but if you look at the top left of my screen now, the city is at 2 HP, which means my 3 HP infantry can capture it next turn. And I get a nice tank strike. And he starts capping my comm tower. And this put me in a little bit of a position because now I cannot strike this tank from high terrain. But I'm fine with that. I still have a temporary infantry count advantage. Adder sent much of his infantry in the middle, whereas I focus my entire 1-base side on this comm tower. So I do have a temporary infantry advantage. He takes the first strike here. But I get my comm tower. Well, I get his comm tower, to be more specific. So I now have 2 comm towers. 2! I take this first strike, and I realize Adder probably gets power. Which is the main advantage he has against Jess. Adder gets faster powers, which means this tank will likely get involved next turn. In other words, if I shoot at this tank, I know this tank will get involved anyway, so I might as well take the first strike here. I sack my infantry so that I can... I clicked the wrong button. I sack my infantry here because despite having 2 comm towers, my Jess day-to-day means that I don't have a guaranteed 2-hit KO. Adder infantry guarantees 2-hit KO against an infantry on a property. But Jess is just a little bit weaker, so I have to sack an infantry first. I capture this city, and now I strike from high terrain, which is very nice. With 2 comm towers as well. I bring in this tank. Admittedly, if I strike from the plains, I could get my power and cover it next turn. Nah, I want just supers. I don't want a normal power. Normal power, Yeah, I prefer supers. Supers are strong. That's why they have super in the name. I take this first strike because I want to weaken as many tanks as possible. This tank can only strike 1 target, but I have 3 relatively powerful tanks here. And I could just build another tank chaining. Build another tank. I will just start tank chaining every single turn. I have reached the funds necessary to double tank every single turn, which is what I will probably do until Copters come into play. Adder power comes as expected, and he gets this nice capture chain, which I don't get because I don't get movement on my infantry. No, my infantry. And Adder should be winning in the middle for the reason that his infantry is stronger with the powers. My infantry does not have movement bonus. I have more firepower, but not during his power turns, where he has strictly better infantry stats. Well, the movement is just really strong. And what does he do? Tank strike. But I think this is fine for me, because I now got 2 hits, and I still have both comm towers, which is very nice. The best part is, I don't have to use my power. I don't. My tanks have the movement to strike these tanks anyway, so I don't have to use my power. So I'm just taking... That hit did not require a power. 5 HP still beats a 3 HP. He didn't buy a mech, so I felt safe doing this. I'm going to probably lose the tank anyway. On this side, 5 HP still beats a 3 HP, just like the right side, same on the left. I picked this 2 hit. I was actually surprised I got the 2-hit KO, but then I realized, oh wait, the tank... wait, what's the tank? Yeah, the tank was chipped. Just a tiny bit on the counter attack of when he attacked me, my tank did counter attack for a little bit of a chip. So it isn't that surprising I get the kill now that I think about it. And I just have a huge numerical tank advantage. I sit on the silo so that he can't use the terrain against me. And tank chain very good. He built copter, a helicopter, which means I should get an anti-air or a copter of my own. But you know me, I am Jess. I build anti-air in the middle. I can move this left to support the left side. I can also move it up towards the middle left or the middle right. Either is fine as long as I can get the anti-air. And because I floated a little bit of money last turn, I can actually buy triple vehicle turn. And this is what I like to do as Jess. As Jess, some people, once you reach a certain funds, some people like to do copter, tank, double infantry. That's when you reach 18k funds. As much as I like copter, tank, double infantry with 18k funds, I have 19 every turn. I prefer getting double tank infantry rather than copter, tank, double infantry. It's less unit count. But copters are way more expensive than tanks. It might sound like 2k, but buying a copter also means you buy an infantry because you're using that base. So copter infantry actually costs 3k more than a tank, or 2k more than an anti-air if you're getting the infantry along with it. And that extra funds, those little 2k or 3k that build up over time, that little bit of extra money allowed me to push for a triple vehicle turn. So I am still tank chaining on my sides every single turn, and I have an anti-air to respond to the copter. So now, not only did my base skip from earlier push me ahead in the tank order, my money floating from building only ground vehicles allowed me to push an extra vehicle again, and just... You're not really that sad if you're behind 1 or 2 infantry, or 3 infantry. You like tanks. You're Jess, you build tanks. That 6 HP infantry was sacked so that the copter cannot interrupt my infantry. I just want more money. Jess likes vehicles. I'm behind in income, but it don't matter because I'm winning the tank war. Income only matters so much as you get more units. But I'll catch up. If I win a tank war, I capture the properties anyway. And I haven't used my power yet, which means I am even further ahead than I appear. Infantry, go! Yes! 7 HP infantry and 1 HP infantries to block the normal adder power to shoot at this tank. And I take a first strike. I'm Jess. I'm 2 comm tower Jess. So what if you're at high terrain? I have more firepower. And also, it is a little bit of a sneaky play here. I have my Jess super. This tank actually covers it next turn. So like, it looks like I'm just throwing a tank away. Like, why didn't I attack from a silo? It's more terrain and I still strike the same tank. No, the planes is so that my tank covers it. At least that's my thought process going into this. I built a copter of my own because, well, I mean, I do want something to support my infantry in the middle. And unless Adder gets an anti-air, his copters have to fight my copters, which is good for me, because my copters don't have to. I have an anti-air. He uses normal power, takes a strike at this tank, but now both of these tanks are in range of this tank. He sacks this tank. I'm surprised my Jess infantry got the kill, but then again, I do have 2 comm towers. 0 comm tower Adder moment. Oh no. It's actually rather unlikely to get the kill, because the tank does about 5% damage, and it reduced my 7 HP to a 6 HP. Which means this 6 HP is probably closer to 6 than it is to 5. It's closer to 6 HP than it is to 5 HP. Infantry does a base of 55%. With the power bonus, he can do 60%, but then the terrain defense, well, I mean, he does have, I do think it's more likely than not he gets the kill here. But he didn't, I laugh at him now. So, which means his copter cannot strike at my tank, and I think it's just over now. I think it is just over. Just super, let's go. This map does seem rather aggressive because of how much infantry fights there are. But I'm only losing in the middle. I'm only down 1 property in the middle, and maybe a few properties on the side, but I'm definitely winning the tank war. And in the tank war, Jess definitely beats Adder. I take this shot over here because I know Adder only got to this property with the, well, not property, this forest with the power. This tank cannot reinforce it. So I have 2 healthy tanks against 2 injured tanks. And even though my infantry is running dry here, that tends to happen, I want the tank war. My tanks can shoot at infantry afterwards. And my copter will soon be arriving, so my copter can also further help me win the tank war. I just have to... I think I stalled enough to the point where I just have a huge advantage. Once again, this tank is only here because of the Adder normal power. Next turn when Adder loses the power, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it doesn't cover. Now the copter can shoot at it. But at this point, I pretty much won this side. I have plenty of infantry. Copter can't really do anything other than take 1 hit. And he resigned before my turn was over. We played this kind of live. I think we played this live. This is Global League, but we were both online, so we played it live. And that's the game. I think it's really just what I said earlier about this turn right here. Send the tank in first. So send the tank in first so my terrain defense gets reduced. Once my terrain defense gets reduced, this infantry would do a little bit more damage than it would have if it shot first. And if I didn't get the comm tower here, then, well, I probably would have cancelled this and joined cap. But even if I joined cap, tank infantry would clear it. So like, this 9 HP would have went to join cap, but then tank infantry clears it, and now would be behind a comm tower for at least until I capture it on this side. Well, I'd still be ahead of 1 comm tower. I still think I win this comm tower, but it would not be 2 comm tower Jess. And 2 comm tower Jess is just rough for Adder to fight into, especially since it's mostly a tank game. The infantry mostly fought in the middle, not supporting the tanks. So tank on tank Jess kind of wins. But yeah, that's what I have to say for this. Another video coming soon, and maybe I'll get back to more videos. Goodbye.